Welcome to Your Success Podcast. We give you actionable insight and stories behind real-life success wherever you go.
Welcome to Your Success Podcast. I'm Angelos, and today I'm joined by special guest Vicky Boucher, who's been on the podcast before. I think this is the second time you've been with us, Vicky.
I think this is my third.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, for those of you who don't know who Vicky is, you're a multiple best-selling author. You own many successful businesses. You're a property expert, and you are the property mermaid. You like to dive a lot. Is that right, Vicky?
Yeah, I'm a bit stranded at the moment. I'm not very mermaidian in the COVID situation. No, I can't even paddle in the back garden. But yes, when we're not doing crazy things like this, then I would love to be scuba diving in all the warm waters of the world.
Talking of Corona or COVID or whatever we're going to call it, either way, it's caused massive disruption to everything and everyone across our planet. I don't think that in living memory we've had such a disruptive force come along so quickly. So today's podcast together is talking about 3 practical steps from victim to leader of your own destiny. And we're going to be covering mindset, finances, and creating a wealthy future plan. So when we do come out the other side of this, we're armed and ready and prepared to embrace the new world. So Vicky, can you just walk us through that, man? And what do you mean by the victim to leader of your own destiny?
I think it's very easy right now to feel like everything is outside of our control. You know, the government's making the rules, the virus is deciding who lives, who dies. Where's our normal routine? And it's those sorts of things that give us the sense of ourselves. So without our sense of self and a feeling that everybody else is making the decisions, we can get a bit lost. And it can be very easy to sort of fall into a negative or a victim style of mindset. And you'll see a lot of people in their posts. There are either those that are being super focused on creating and holding on to a positive mindset, and there'll be lots of people either passing on a lot of negative news all the time, or they're not going on social media, but they're watching TV all the time and getting caught up in the negativity. And that can suck you into the feeling that you don't have any control. And if you don't have any control, my shorthand phrase for that is that you're a victim. Whereas if you can work on your mindset, and I know that, sometimes we use the word mindset and it's a bit woo-woo and, hold on, I'm a business person, I'm a property investor. But if anything from my nearly 20 years of doing this, so having left traditional employment, my last 20 years, if anything has showed me over the last 20 years, the what goes on in here affects absolutely everything. How you appreciate an experience is all by the state of your mind. The words that you say come from the state of your mind. And so making sure that's as clean, as healthy, and as positive as possible is crucial before anything else.
But just to reinforce that point, when we were first put into lockdown officially, where we weren't allowed to necessarily travel as much, for the first couple of weeks, I was all over the shop. I was worried about getting a couple of the projects finished, all that kind of thing. I'm doing the property refurbs, and when your workers and your tradespeople aren't necessarily able to get to the site, everything grinds to a halt very quickly. But then after that, you kind of accept. Well, I accepted the situation. You have to do the best you can, and like you say, I thought, well, you've got 2 choices here. You can either wallow in pity, or you can crack on with it and be positive and be creative. So I've set myself the task of finishing my second book, Property Nightmares, which I think you're going to be part of. So
Absolutely.
I'm really pleased about that. And also I'm building a Greek temple pond in my garden.
I saw that as well.
Which has been in the pipeline for a couple of years. So it's just keeping yourself busy and having that positive mindset is really important. Now, don't get me wrong, there are times where, you do kind of think, oh, Christ, when's this going to all finish? When can I get back to reality? But you just got to see it as the best you can. At least it's good weather. At least we don't have a state of war. Our ancestors have had it much worse than what we've had. So it's just putting things into context. And like you say, it's all in the mindset. of doing.
I wonder if you found that some of the people that you would have normally engaged with, let's say September, October, November last year, that you found that you need to distance from them now, because some people will have come to your level of mindset. Some will be even more positive and proactive than you, but there'll be some people that you used to have within your social circles that actually you find that their conversations pull you down a track you don't want.
Just going off on a slight tangent to answer your question there. I feel that at the start, looking at civilization in Britain and how certain people were fighting over toilet roll and hoarding and getting arrested in Tesco's because they weren't playing the game and following the rules and, just putting the bigger society ahead of their personal needs. It's just very interesting to see how we like to think we're quite an advanced society. We're very cultured. We're very, forward thinking. And yet the slightest bit of pressure can really set certain people off into, this stress, fight or flight mode. And you see sometimes it brings out the very worst in people. But I'm looking at it now, how long have we been in isolation? What 6, 7 weeks, whatever it is. People have kind of accepted that situation now. And now they're thinking, right, okay, what can we do about it? This is the reality for the next 3, 4, 5, however long weeks. But yes, you're right. There have been a couple of people where you would normally expect them to be quite stoic and prepared and calm. And this situation has really flummoxed them. You talk to them, but everything out of their mouth is very negative. And there's no reassuring some people. Everyone is always going to think. And just very quickly about the media, I just want to say something. I've said it before, but especially now, you go to something like the BBC or something like that, and you check the app, and you check the titles of the headlines. You've got death, you've got murder, you've got infection, you've got all these negative things. And you just think, Christ, I'm spending 5-10 minutes in the morning reading this stuff. That's not the kind of brain food that I want in the morning to supercharge me to be creative and positive. So now I don't bother. I just have a quick skim read. Right, okay, we're still good. Let's carry on. I think a lot of people, they use the news and Facebook and social media, whatever it is, to get their information because they need to be hyper-connected. They need that instant news, and they're regurgitating all these statistics about virus deaths and all this kind of thing. It's like, guys, it's happening. As long as we can stay safe and look out for each other, leave it be.
Yeah.
Leave it be. You don't need to be that connected. And because it only will drag you down and you'll be quite negative in your view and your outlook if you constantly read all this negative thing. One thing I read the other day, if it bleeds, it reads. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, you look at the headlines and it's all about the negativity because I guess that's what people engage with, unfortunately. I mean,
it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, no, absolutely. But I've always thought that the press and the media was negative because they say good news doesn't sell, only bad news sells. And if anything, this has been heightened. And I think that's where the structure of your day is so important for your mindset. You just use the comment, and I don't know whether you mean it literally, but first thing in the morning you go online. If the first thing you do, not you, one does, is go and read about death, how can you go up from there? The climb is much harder because you went from where you were down into the death pit. Now you've got to climb out of the death pit in order to start being positive to move the day forward. Whereas if you structure your day, for example, with and it's personal choice, okay? So a meditation. I don't tend to do a lot of meditations. I'll dip in and out of them, but some people find the routine of a meditation. I use Insight Timer, which is an American-based website where a good friend of mine, Tom Evans, has created loads and loads of podcasts. I like his voice. I like his style. So find someone you like and go with it. Or if you like the variety, go for variety and just sort of go for a shuffle and pick one up. It could be exercise. Everybody's doing Joe Wicks. I was doing Joe Wicks until we got to Easter, and he dressed up as Spider-Man on Good Friday. And I know he was sweating his costume, but flipping heck, that was such a hard workout. He just was like burping all over the place, and I like lost my rhythm. I've been doing really well up until then, so I need to get back into that. Maybe yoga if you don't want to be jumping around in your front room, but do something for you first. get you strong, and then move from your strength, your resilience, your mentally good place. If you then want to go over to the news and just check the headlines, fine. It can be important because it can be about, particularly if you're property investors, bank base rates. If you're someone who does shares, then you want to see that sort of stuff. So you've got business reasons to be checking. But if you don't have a business reason to check, and you're not obsessed with what Trump's been up to overnight, then leave it until later in the day, because maybe it isn't necessary for you. So think about how you structure your day. And to take that one step further, set an alarm, get up at a specific time, have a routine, have Monday to Friday, have Saturday and Sunday, go to bed at a certain time. We live in a very student area. We've moved from living near Brunel University to now living near Royal Holloway. So we've gone upscale, but the students are the same the world over. I can see the guys next door, they have gone upside down. They are not up. Those windows are not open before midday. But one night I needed to get up, and I heard them shouting because they are playing computer games in one of the rear bedrooms, and the windows were open because it was hot. And I could hear them shouting at the computer games at 3 a.m. in the morning. So, I've heard some friends that are having trouble sleeping, so they're starting to slip the other way. And that's partly exercise, but most importantly, mindset and dealing with or not dealing with worries. So communication is so important as part of all of this.
In this time of extreme disruption to all of our lives, having a routine that you create is more important than ever.
I think so. Absolutely. I think there are three things. One is to help you feel more in control. So you need a routine. If that alone doesn't do it for you, so having some structure doesn't make you feel strong, and maybe the word control is a bit too much for you. I like the word control. In fact, I love the word control. So if that's not what you want, but you feel in charge or you feel positive, fine. If that isn't enough, then something's bothering you. And you go one of two ways. You either, let's be honest, what's bothering you. It's something you're not dealing with. More likely than not at a time like now, it's finances, and it nearly always is finances for people. Or you need to speak about it. So either you've got a financial situation that you're not dealing with, that you're not taking control of, and you've not got the data, so it's this big worry, and that'll keep you up at night. Or great, you have got the data, but now you're not speaking to people. So take a typical family, because I think a lot of people will be family orientated listening, either within their own household or connected into a wider family group. If you've done your finances, and whether you've been furloughed, laid off, or you're a property investor worrying about your properties, you will now see a change in your income. Bear in mind, you should also see a reduction in your expenses because you won't be driving. And with a bit of luck, unless you're spending all your time on Amazon, you won't be able to be buying as much as you used to, given the dry pasta and toilet situation that we spoke about earlier. But now you have to speak to people about that. So, typically in a family, whether it's the male or the female, one partner will be the person who leads on the finances. It's very rare. In fact, I have never met a client yet where a couple equally take control of the money. One will always be better at it. Don't be that person and take all that weight on your shoulder, and don't not be that person and leave all that weight on your partner's shoulder. Now more than ever is an opportunity for us to become so financially aware and so much more financially intelligent that we can come out of this stronger from that one thing alone. Until now, people didn't understand the numbers in their businesses. They didn't understand the impact of credit cards and interest rates. They never really understood the impact of loans or taking out a mobile phone tariff and then not paying one of the direct debits. People, we're not taught at school. And now you've got the chance to self-educate about money, take this opportunity, and now speak to your partner about it. Speak to your children about it. Tell your children your financial situation so they can contribute to the not spending and understand why They can't have this, have that, have this, have that, because there will be a tendency for those children that are of that age to be going, I want this, I need that, I want this, I need that, because they're bored. And, you know, spending things is an easy way to put a sticky plaster over anything that's uncomfortable. So have these conversations. I think we've got a real opportunity here.
So on the other end of this, I'm thinking once we're allowed out and once life kind of resumes to a certain extent, they've done this analysis, so they're aware of their finances. Maybe it's given them time to take stock of all their expenses. Maybe it's time for them to look at creating that online business or whatever it is that they can do to increase their income. How would you suggest they start looking at maybe creating a wealthy future plan out the back of this?
So I think there are two components here. One is, let's call it market awareness, and the other is the finances. So first thing you're going to do, apart from your structure and everything else, and taking care of your own mindset, is taking care of your own finances. The next thing I think you need to do, and this is going to lead us into market awareness in a minute, is start to look at your values. So what's really important to you now? I'm sure we could have easily a 2-hour conversation now about what we used to value before and now what we value here. And so many people will, especially if you ran property portfolios or ran your own businesses, you would have been very focused on making those successful because you believed that by making your businesses successful or your careers in employment, what you were doing was providing for your family. But that often would have meant that you were out of the house for a long time and you've missed your children. And even if, and I know you're probably not struggling with this because your son's so little, but homeschooling, something like a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 up to sort of 14-year-old will be a real challenge for some families. But understanding how brilliant your child is, really getting into the detail of, my goodness, they've got a real aptitude to maths, or actually they're really entrepreneurial and I want to bring that forward for them because they're not taught that at school. That is a gift that you would have never have had if this virus wasn't here. And so, maybe your values are different. And as I said right at the beginning, it could be that when you go back to it, you don't want to spend so much money on a holiday or a car or, when we moved, Lord, we moved house and we had 2 of the biggest Pantechnicons, and I don't consider myself to be materialistic at all, but we had so much stuff, and all that stuff cost money, and all that money cost me time, and I spent time buying stuff to fit in a van to bring from one place to another place, and some of the stuff I hadn't seen for a while. And what was worse was we'd already cleared the house out and we'd got a whole load of stuff in another container somewhere. And I'm not materialistic, but there was still stuff everywhere. So I'd rather now think to myself, how do I want to spend my time? My time is the most important thing. And before COVID kicked off, just as a little detour and then I'll bring us back, I was talking about mortality moments. A mortality moment is that moment, if you can ever imagine what it was like before COVID, when you had that near miss in the car, or you were involved in a car accident, or you or a family member got sick. And you went, oh, maybe I'm not immortal after all. Maybe there is going to be a time limit to how long I stay on this planet in this form. And it just makes you go, actually, some other things are more important to me. And I can look back at where I've made a significant change in my life. And just before that, I've had a mortality moment. I've had a realization that I'm not going to live forever, although I'm going to live for a long time. And I've gone, need to change what's important to me again. And this is what's going to happen to us all now, a giant global mortality moment. And people are going to be changing what's important to them, either consciously or unconsciously. That's going to influence their buying decisions. Now, on a personal level...
Do you, just going off on a slight tangent there, Vicky, how do you see society changing at the end of this?
Well, that's really difficult to predict. I know what I wish for. I wish that all the homeless people that have been taken off the streets and put into the empty hotels are never put back on the streets again. Please let's find a way not to do that. I hope that having seen how beautifully clear the skies are, how people suffering with asthma are able to breathe more easily because there isn't the pollution in the air, that we don't go back to everybody thinking that they have to drive to work. We've all worked from home. So what if we, had conversations, and this is about what's important to us. What if you had a conversation with your employer or thought about how you ran your business and did more of it from home? One of my clients was speaking to me, and although they worked only a 4-day week where they went into the office, so they had 1 day at home in order to get stuff done without the distractions, they have gone through the roof with their business, where they're at home and able to focus because you can control the conversation. Now, I'm not saying that we're all going to move back into our houses and never meet one another again. But I do think that the transition period of when the government says we're allowed to start coming out of isolation doesn't mean that everybody will. I think that, I don't know about you, but I actually went into semi-isolation long before the government announced it. I was already looking at my environment and how many times I went out and who I connected with, and I had shrunk down my connections quite substantially from about mid-February because we got our new grandson. So I'd already made those changes then. When the government says, okay, all the shops are open and everything else, I'm not immediately going to go back to the theatre. I'm not immediately going to go and book a trip to a play. I'm not immediately going to do anything other than the things that I've been doing now until I'm completely convinced that we're not going to face another peak. And that's not to be doom and gloom, but that's just so that I want to see that everything that we've worked so hard for is built on foundations and lasts. Because not only have we got to get out of our houses and into our towns and our cities, but then we've got to get out of our countries and into other countries. I don't know about you, but we've got a holiday booked to Morocco. I'm really hoping that they don't let us go because I don't want to go. Because just because we've sorted things out here, and I don't even know what the situation is in Morocco, but we've then all got to go to the airport and commingle. We're then going to sit on a plane where we're going to breathe recycled air. They're saying things like, at the moment, people on airlines are saying, oh, there are so few passengers that people are able to sit on a plane without anybody next to them. So we still maintain social distancing, but you're still breathing rebreathed air. So I don't really understand how that makes any difference. So I don't think we are going to go back to, whether it's the old normal or the new normal, we're going to go back to something different. And so if you're thinking about either an existing business or a property portfolio or a new business, understanding the simple fact that people's values will have changed and we won't know how that pans out is going to mean that any major decisions now, and certainly any major business expenses now, I believe you should hold tight on until you're sure that there will be a return on any investments that you make. So I was speaking to someone who wanted to set up an online shop. And then when we delved into what that online business was, it wasn't actually a shop where they were required to buy things in order to sell things for a profit. They wanted to do basically a website with some coaching. So they could use Zoom for free. They could, do everything for very minimal cost. We'll put it out there as a free product, test the market to see if it's still there. And then if it is, when this is over and people's appetites turn to buying other things than toilet rolls and dry pasta, and you know that you've got a market, then you start to put the money behind it to actually drive it forward.
So let's say you're at home, you're a little bit bored, you've got time on your hands, and you want to create a different financial future for yourself and your family. Can you perhaps list maybe 3 things they can start thinking about today in order for them to create that financial plan and maybe change the course of their destiny?
Sure. Well, I think I don't want to say that it's simple. The upper level is simple. The implementation will be more challenging. So the upper level is, if you're going to do something, a new business, you've either got to be good at it or passionate about it. So if you're already good at it, and let's just use us, we're good at property investing. So we could set up a property investing business because we've already got existing experience. We've already got a track record. We're good at it. And then we're passionate about it. we've got the top boxes sorted. But let's say you could probably run a Greek school. You speak Greek, don't you? I'm half Italian. I don't speak any Italian other than say please, thank you, and hello. So you could diversify if you want and create a website to teach children Greek. I could not diversify, even though I might be passionate about wanting to learn Italian. I couldn't diversify into creating a how to teach children Italian because I don't have the experience. Now, if I wanted to go away and learn Italian for myself, there's a time lag there, so I could learn something. So another example might be stock trading. I don't want to do that, but I could use this time to learn how to trade and then choose to trade. But that's not really a business, which is why I didn't use it as an example. That's something you tend to do for yourself. So those are the two things. So somewhere up at the top level, you've got to have experience, passion, knowledge, or whatever to go on with it. The next level is the more complicated level. And that's where you've got to have a market, but we already know that the market is going to change. And we don't know how the market is going to change because we don't know more than we've ever not known. We don't know what the future looks like. So you've got an unknown market with clients who aren't clear on their own buying decisions, because you would have not thought in November last year that toilet rolls and pasta were important to you. What was your most ridiculous purchase? And I'll tell you mine.
What, during these times?
Yeah, during these times. What was the most ridiculous thing you bought?
Some Peppa Pig ice creams.
Really? Okay, well, I mean, at least they're edible. I was doing absolutely fine, and I don't know what came over me one point when I was in the shops, and I bought like really, really big bottles of water, you know, like the big square bottles of water. And I got home and Bob went, "What are you doing? You're panicking. Stop panicking, Vicky." And I went, "You know, I'm not panicking." Because I didn't feel like I was panicking, but somewhere at the back, you know, that fear must have just got me. I'm not panicking. This is perfectly sensible, because if at any reason there is, and then I start rapidly trying to justify my purchase. If there is a failure in the water system, okay, it's going to take longer to get people to replace it. And at least we're going to have some water in the house so we can have a cup of tea.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfectly logical.
Okay. Yeah.
And I know he's unlikely to listen to the podcast because he doesn't do podcasts, although he might find us on, we might have to edit this bit. I think, in all honesty, I now know I had seen a woman completely fill a trolley full of bottles of water early on in the situation. And I remember her coming to the tills and then going, "No, this is an item that's rationed. You can only have 3 bottles of water." And she's going, "But I've got 4 children and me, and I'm a nurse. I need it because I'm a nurse," or whatever. I'm a central queue worker. And they went, no, it doesn't make any difference who you are. You can only have 3 bottles of water, but there's 5 of us. Well, no, that doesn't make any difference. But we drink this water all the time. Doesn't matter. You cannot have that. That's the rule. And I think it had played and played and played. And because this one time I was out and I just turned around and I saw water, because for so long there hadn't been big bottles of water, because there's been a panic on all sorts of things. One time there was no frozen veg at all. I don't know how big people's freezers were. And then there was no water. And we were going through all of these things, weren't we, as people moved on to the next thing. And I think just because there was water, I just put it in the trolley. And it was totally an unconscious fear response. And I think hopefully you can observe those before they happen, but be aware that the fear can sneak up on you unconsciously. Worries can sneak up at you unconsciously. So like, you can be worried about money and not realize that you're worried about money, and you're worried about money because you haven't done the maths of your own personal circumstances. You haven't gone through your portfolio and checked that out. But if we just go back to that, setting your business up, so you've got experience or passion or knowledge and track record about something, we know that we've got a market where we're a bit unclear as to exactly what people's preferences will be in the future. And normally what you would do is you would know that there was a demand in the market for something. So again, to use the property example, we'd know that there was a shortage of rooms so that we could either buy to let or do houses of multiple occupancy. Or we'd know that there was a shortage of, I don't know, I can't think of another thing that might, pasta or bread or whatever, that there might be a shortage of something so that you could create that either as a service or a product. And then you'd be able to work out the maths of it. So you'd know how much it costs you to create the product. And if you don't understand a business at this level, then please don't start a business, because you won't be successful. And all the businesses that are going down now, small and large, are because they don't have a handle on the numbers. So you know what it costs you to create a project or a product or a service. And then you know that you need to be able to put profit on that. Now, the size of that profit is determined by the desire of the market. So when you get these fancy watches that all the guys collect, or, a particular sort of shoes that women might buy, this is not to be too sexist, but just to pick two consumer products, there are set prices to create those two products. And a Rolex watch or any of the other, I'm not a brand person, so I've only got two brands I can use in this example. A Rolex watch will have a set price on it, and it's a combination of scarcity, because it's a luxury item. You can do scarcity with luxury items, but it's also in demand. People will want to not be seen to wear one of these watches, so they'll pay a premium for it. And the same with, if, for example, the only shoe I know is a Jimmy Choo shoe. To be seen to be wearing one of those, women will pay a great margin over the top of the actual cost to buy it. But if what you're creating, and let's take it back to a service industry, you're offering business coaching, or you're offering printing services, or you're a virtual assistant and you're trying to do social media and everything for everybody, what does it cost you to deliver that? So there's some basic expenses like the Wi-Fi and the software and everything else. More importantly, there's your own time, your own hourly rate. But then there's the premium that's the profit in order to keep the business going. How much are people prepared to pay for these services? And if the demand isn't there, they're not going to pay the price that makes it worth your while doing it. So I think the key thing that you can do now is use this time to broadly educate yourself around a whole load of things that you are interested in, but not to start a business until you can start to see, and hopefully if you're one of these forward-thinking people, you'll start to see a trend. Who knew we should have all invested in Zoom, for example? Wow, wish we had Zoom shares. But, start to see the trend coming. But you'll also be able to see a trend coming more easily when you're immersing yourself completely in that world and that you're educated in that world. So again, to use a property example, if you're not investing in property now, use this as time to learn how to source properties online, learn about the maths of it, what's yield, what's return on investment, understand the costs of refurbishment, observe everything that you can, maybe even find an area for yourself, but don't start, not that you can because obviously the market's shut, but don't immediately start buying when you come out the other end. Look at what the trend is. Because I think, and we'll probably have a conversation about this in a few weeks' time, there are going to be some really interesting property trends coming back out the end. And let's be honest, they're only a variation of flavour of ice cream of other times we've had crises, but it's going to be interesting to see what comes out the other side.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, without going too much on the property tangent, it wasn't the property market that caused this.
Oh, no, not this time. No.
Compared to, say, 2008. So although we have a crisis, property isn't to blame, or over-leveraging bad mortgages and debt isn't to blame this time. So there will be some knock-on effects. And like you say, it's the ones who are adaptable, who have a passion for it or are very good at it, who will do well out of this. And I think you were speaking at the Professional Investment Group the last Monday in May.
Yes.
Which was cool. So I can't wait to hear about your insights about the future trends of property. So one last thing, Vicky. Let's say someone is just on that, just teetering, just thinking, I've had loads of time off work now. I've always wanted to start up that something. I've got a passion for something, but they've got all these reservations, these fears in their mind. Maybe it won't be a success, or I don't know what to do. Just very briefly, what would you say to that person who is just teetering on creating that business, who they believe will make a difference in people's lives?
So is it that they believe that what they've got to offer will make a difference?
Yes. Yeah. But
why not do it now? Why not do it now? So what we don't know is what the market demand for pretty much anything will be when we come out the other side. Mm-hmm. So take, for example, gyms. Now we've all learned to exercise at home. What is going to happen to people who own gyms? Are we suddenly going to see loads of people join a gym because they've done exercise and now they think, geez, I should have been going to the gym all the time? Or is nobody going to renew their gym membership because now they've been out walking and cycling and running and doing the Joe Wicks and all the other people that are doing online training for free? Why bother going to a gym when I can get it all online anyway? Okay, so there's a real shift going on here. Or will we have a sort of a roller coaster where no one joins now because we'll come out in the summer, but then when it's November and you find it really hard to make yourself go out for a run, then you decide to go and open up your gym membership. So we need to observe these trends in the short and the long term. You want to know, if you're going to start a business, that there is a long tail to the market. There's no point coming out and saturating the market with something, particularly if you don't sell it at a good enough price, and then find that there's no market afterwards because the tastes have changed. Maybe like with Peppa Pig ice cream. I did see Peppa Pig sprinkle on ice cream as well, which is just, anyway, got off onto Peppa Pigs. So there's that aspect of it. But if what you think is, and your passion is, that what you've got to offer is going to make a difference, what better time to pilot your materials, to get testimonials and reviews, to hone your skills, and to contribute by doing it for free now? And pretty much everybody, I mean, I'm sure you've got it where you are, but if you go onto Facebook, you can put in the area that you live. There is probably a website for your area, a Facebook group for your area. And if there's a Facebook group for your area, you'll find that your area has organized to help one another. So some people are doing it street by street. Some people are doing it, sub-district by sub-district. We're part of a big council here, and where we live on the hill, up the top of the hill, we've got our own little group up here. And you could join that and you could offer your skills. So you don't have to just be picking up and dropping off shopping and prescriptions. Why not put yourself on the Facebook group to say, if anybody is struggling with the finances, or anybody struggling with a mindset, or anybody struggling with a business, or anybody struggling with social media? I mean, what if your business was around social media and you knew social media stuff? Or again, to use you as an example, you're brilliant at the podcasts. Ever fancied setting up your own podcast? I can teach you how. And as you teach more and more people, you will identify the 3 silly mistakes. You'll learn and through practice know the 7 pieces of equipment. You'll know, as a successful podcast host, the 10 key things that you must do in order to be, and you'll create all of that material. And then when we're ready and we come out the other end, you just look to see whether podcasting is something for which there is a demand and people will pay for it. And then you've got all the materials ready, switch it over, and all of a sudden people can start paying for it. You've got your product created, you've got the reviews from all the people that you've helped, and you're ready to now sell your new course or your new service, anything like that. But you're testing the market now.
Oh, I like that. Now I suddenly want to create a book writing course and a podcast.
Yeah, no. I mean, I keep thinking to myself, I could be writing another book. No, stop that.
Cool. All right, Vicky. Well, how do people get in contact with you?
Well, the simple thing is, and you'll spell it for them, is if you know how to spell my name, then you can find me anywhere. You'll see it occasionally pop up here, but it's Vicky Wusche, and it's Vicky, Vicki, and the surname Wusche. So you can find me on all social media channels. My website is also vickywushay.com. And when you go on there, you'll be able to find resources that you can get. So some of the resources are free. Some of the resources direct you to the books that I've written. But there's also something called a scorecard. And the scorecard is an online quiz, and I've adapted it. So I originally wrote it as part of the Wealthy Retirement Plan, which was the book that I published in January 2019. And I've realized that all the lessons in that book are relevant now. So the book was asking you, what would you do if you didn't have to work to pay the bills? And in some cases, that's the situation we're in now. You're not allowed to work. And if you've been furloughed, you're getting 80% of your wages to stay at home. So now what are you going to do with yourself? And that's why I said time is so important. So if you plan out what's important to you and how you want to spend your time, you can then create the financial plan to give you the lifestyle that you want. So maybe when we come out of this, eventually, you don't go back to work full time, or you don't create your business so that you have to work in it 5 or 6 days a week. And that's what so many people do. They make a mistake because they don't get the pricing right. So if you know that you want to create a business or to work 4 days a week, and that will give you, let's make a nice round number, £2,000 a month, then that £2,000 a month is something that you can afford to live on. Super, you've just created yourself a wealthy future because you've got enough money coming in, and you've now got a 3-day weekend every week to do the art that you've got into, or to be able to run every day, or to take up cooking, or to do your online podcast in German lessons or Greek lessons. Yeah. So you've got all of that can go on. So the scorecard will help you go through the principles, and I've renamed it into the Readiness to Survive Wealthy. So it's all about sort of COVID right now. And you can answer these questions and it'll give you a personalized report and a personalized score. And depending on how your scores are, you'll be able to read very specific actions that you can take now, pretty much along what I've said, which is about getting clear what's important to you and protecting your mindset, looking at your finances, and then looking at the resources that you've got and how you can best use them to create the future that you want. So the scorecard is there for free for anybody.
And that's at vickywushay.com, yeah?
Yes.
Brilliant. All right, Vicky, well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really insightful. It's nice to talk with a fellow positive person, just thinking ahead as opposed to thinking about the now. So, yeah, thank you again. And, I'm sure we'll invite you back again for your fourth.
My fourth, yes.
Your fourth podcast.
Maybe we'll do that when we're out and we work out what this new normal everybody is talking about, eh?
Yeah, I look forward to it. Cool. So for those of you at home, I hope you've been inspired today by listening to Vicky and her expertise about creating businesses and looking ahead and planning. Please get in contact with us at hello@yoursuccesspodcast.com, or reach out to us at all the social media channels that we have. We look forward to hearing your stories. And thanks again, Vicky. And we'll see you again on the next exciting episode of Your Success Podcast.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Your Success Podcast. Click subscribe for more incredible content. More details can be found at www.yoursuccesspodcast.com.